Talking Sports podcast with PD DiBiasi and John Rocco Trumpbour, and this is right here on YouTube.
And please follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're trying to grow a following, so I really appreciate it if you do.
Yeah, guys, make sure you subscribe to the channel, drop a like and a comment on this video. Twitter and Instagram always has great polls. Our Twitter polls do amazing. So if you guys want to drop your little knowledge on the poll, it's your chance to drop some knowledge and give us your opinion on the poll we release. So over 300 followers on Twitter, over 1,000 followers on Instagram, over 700 followers, I believe, on YouTube. So guys, we're trying to get to 1,000. You know, 1,000's a special number in the YouTube world. So please try to get us a 1,000 subscribers. If you watch this video and you like our content, drop a subscription because you'll be more content. Guys, this is kind of a weird spot in the sports world, right? Last video, we did our Super Bowl predictions. So the NFL season's over. We'll definitely be having draft coverage. I know me and JR want to do draft coverage and free agency coverage, so we'll definitely be giving you guys that. The MLB season is starting soon, so we'll definitely be giving you our predictions for the MLB season. That's not our strong suit in the sense of sports, but we'll definitely be giving you predictions for the MLB season. And then the NBA is kind of in the middle of their season, no college football, and then we'll definitely be giving you college basketball bracketology. So, guys, there's a lot of content coming. We're kind of in a weird spot right now, so this is why this video is going to be a little different. I'll tell you what this video is in a second, but definitely bracketology for college basketball, definitely free agency for the draft, free agency and draft for the NFL, and definitely MLB predictions for the season. So, guys, a lot of content coming up. But, before I get into this video, make sure my radio show starts in a couple weeks. That will be in our link tree in our description. So if you guys ever want to check that out and call in and talk to me for 2 hours on, I don't know what day it is yet, but I'll guys let you know on Twitter and Instagram when that is. But let's dive into today's video. Today's video is going to be kind of like a first take, undisputed kind of type of video, if you guys know what that is, on ESPN Fox Sports 1, when they kind of debate a topic. So we're kind of going to be debating the top 5 current NBA players. Not all-time players, not players this year, top 5 current NBA players in the league. It takes into the 5 years prior to this year, also takes into this season. So this season could help or hurt their stock in our top 5. So it's not just this season. I know like there's some players that are top in MVP leaders that might not be in our top 5. This is not just this season. That season helped them try to have a chance, but it might not help them fully enough. So we're going to be giving you our top 5 current NBA players. And also, guys, the stats we are given are for February 18th. So if their stats look a little different when you're watching this, because this video will come out a couple days later, just know when we record this. Okay, I talked too much right there, Jared. You are up. Top 5 current NBA players. We're going to be each given our 5th, and then we're going to each go 4, 3, 2, 1. We're going to debate each number. JR, who is your 5th best NBA player right now?
So I know this might cause a lot of controversy. Many people might not think the same, but I'm going to pick James Harden. He's averaging 24.3 points per game this season, 8.4 rebounds, and 11.8 assists, leading the league. He's basically almost averaging close to a triple-double and 1.1 steals. And I'm not just talking about this season. Obviously, I'm going to take other seasons into account. But especially this season where he left the Houston Rockets, went to the Brooklyn Nets, who have Kyrie and KD, KD shooting 19 shots a game, Kyrie shooting 20 shots a game. And he kind of took that role as, I'm going to be more of a playmaker this year. He's now down to 15 shots a game. And, Harden's usually averaging like 36 points per game scoring. But he's taken that role as more of a facilitator, as more of like the point guard for the team. I know Kyrie is a point guard, but he's more like kind of like the shooting guard in this scenario. They're 18-12, second in the East. I know I'm probably leaving some really good players off this list, but I just think James Harden, really solid player, and he's my 5th best player in the NBA right now. Not just because of his scoring ability, and I think he just hit a game winner like last night or 2 nights ago, but also just because he's looking like a point guard. And he's kind of a do-everything type of player now, and that's what I like to see.
I do not have James Harden in my top 5. This is what the struggle with making this list yesterday, of like how many players we're going to leave off that are superstar, all-star type of players. But I do not have James Harden on my list. The shot you're talking about was against the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, I think it was last night, right?
Yeah, 2 nights ago. They didn't have Durant and Kyrie, So they needed some extra help, and Harden kind of carried them to that victory. That team is really intriguing with Harden, Kyrie, and Durant. A lot of alphas on that team, and I picked the Nets to go to the finals. So we'll see how that works out. He's not my top five, but he's one of the players obviously I considered because he's James Harden, one of the best scorers of this generation and of all time. But it's so hard to disagree with that. But my number fifth player, and I know you're going to disagree with this, is Luka Doncic. And see, I see your reaction right away. The reason I think it's Luka Doncic right now, this season, he's averaging 29.1 points per game, 8.6 rebounds, and 9.4 assists. That's basically averaging almost a triple double. He's a rebound and a half off and a half an assist off. And Luka Doncic, since he has joined the NBA, has been one of the best players in the league. He won Rookie of the Year. He was a top 5 draft pick. He was great last year. They did lose in the playoffs in the first round. And the only thing that's holding him back and why I think some people are not going to like him as being the 5th best NBA player is because of his team and now how they're not really doing as good as people thought. And I had picked the Mavericks to finish top 5 in the West. Right now, they're certainly sitting at 13 and 15 as the 10th seed in the West. That's not where a lot of people thought. There's also been injuries. They've had COVID, all the excuses you want to give. Porzingis has been injured. I think having Doncic, they haven't really built around him as much as I thought, and I thought Porzingis would be better. But that's not what we're talking about here. Doncic, a top 5 NBA player for sure. One of the best scorers, passers, and rebounders for his position. You can say he's a point guard. You can say he's a power forward. You can say he's a small forward. He's around 6'7", 6'6", maybe not a power forward, small forward. But he's kind of like that. He's like a much better Ben Simmons. I can kind of consider him to be a Ben Simmons type of player, like in his height. Ben Simmons is a better defender. I want to make sure that's clear. Ben Simmons is a much better defender than Luka Doncic. And another reason why people won't have him on is because of his defense. But, man, he literally is the only reason the Mavericks are 13 to 15. If you look at that roster, Porzingis has been a shell of himself. The next best player is probably Josh Richardson or Tim Hardaway. Nice role players, but then they can't be your second and third player on a championship team, quote unquote. But Luka Doncic, 29 points per game, 8 rebounds, 9 assists. I think in order for him to kind of keep this 5th or 4th kind of ranking, in my opinion, his team is going to need to be better. And I feel like he could easily fall out. Like, this is a fringe number 5, in my opinion, if his team doesn't make the playoffs or doesn't succeed this season. But just going off what Luka Doncic has done in his career and in this season, he's been one of the best players in the league, and he's probably one of the best draft picks we have seen in recent memory. So Luka Doncic is my 5th best player. Jared, why do you disagree? I know you disagree.
I just have a little rebuttal. So I'm a huge Russell Westbrook fan. And his MVP year, we had led the league in scoring, averaged a triple-double. His team was, I think, 6th or 5th in the Western Conference playoffs. No one considered him to be a top 5 player in the NBA. What's the difference with Luka?
I never considered Russell Westbrook to be in top 5, but I always thought he was hated on more than he should have. I think it was a style of play. Not my opinion, but I think how he played wasn't how people wanted him to play, right? Like, it wasn't like a smooth kind of play. Like, you watch Steph Curry and Harden play, make all these threes. Russell Westbrook's he's kind of been a little, quote unquote, inefficient. I want to say, not super inefficient, but there's some games where he's not a great shooter. That's not his specialty, Russell Westbrook. So I think a lot of people in the NBA were like, you know what, he can't shoot, which kind of hurt him. It's also why people don't think Ben Simmons is that good, just because of.
Yeah.
I think Ben Simmons is really good.
Yeah, I do too.
In a different role, like how you can compare him to. He's not a shooter. I think he still needs, if he wants to take that next step to a superstar, then he needs to be able to shoot the ball. But to be an all-star or a star player, doesn't need to. But going back to Russell Westbrook, I agree. I never considered him a top 5 player. I just think because of his position at that time, because Harden was better still, and Steph Curry, and there's so many different positions in the NBA. But if it wasn't for Steph Curry, I think it would have definitely been more of a conversation. I think he was a top 10 player at his peak in his career, not anymore, but at his peak, I think he was a top 10 player. So I see where you're coming from.
I guess for me, it's Luka definitely is potential to be on this list, maybe even top 3 on this list. But just right now, I think he's too young. He hasn't shown me that he could really carry a team, and that's just why I left him off the list.
Quick question. What if he gives you another year? Like, let's say he finishes this with 29, 8, and 9, whatever the stats are, and then he has another year like this, and they finish 5th in the West, and they lose in the conference semis next year. The same exact stats here. Like, he's incredible, but his team is not to the level.
I mean, so like the team doesn't change. Just
the team doesn't change. Nothing changes.
If he could get to a top 4 seed, I think that's pretty. And it all obviously it depends how his team plays, Porzingis. But if he could do that, then maybe he's a possibility of making this list.
Okay, who is your number 4?
I think Pete might hate me for this one, but I'm going Kawhi Leonard at 4. His current season, 26.7 points per game, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. He's shooting 51% from the field. His record is 21-9, 3rd in the West. And the reason why I have him at number 4 is because they're 3rd in the West. If you have him higher, my reasoning would be like, why isn't his team better? Because he's got Paul George. He's having a really good year, 25 points per game. He's shooting 50% field goal percentage and like 48% from 3. He's having a good year. So they have 2 top defenders on their team. And I guess maybe it's because Kawhi doesn't play as much. He played a good amount this season. But, I mean, the team's really good. I think Kawhi is really good. I just don't see him being higher on this list for me over the 3 players that I have above him. I mean, people compare like, Kawhi to LeBron and stuff like that. Like, Kawhi is a better 3-point shooter. He's shooting 39% from 3. LeBron's shooting 38%. And people think like Kawhi is a much better 3-point shooter than LeBron for some reason. I don't understand that. Obviously, Kawhi is debatably the best defender in the league. That's why I have him at 4 and have him in this list. And I've seen what he could do, how he could lead a team to the finals, especially with the Raptors. He gained my respect from that. So I have him at number 4. I know Pete probably has him higher, but he's my number 4 best player.
Hey, look at this. Like, the thing is with this list, and I think a lot of these players are fluid. I feel like there's a lot of interchange.
Mm-hmm.
If you and me go on the street and ask 2 other people, they're going to give us a totally different top 5. Like, not some of the same players, but I have Kawhi Leonard higher on this list. You know how I feel about Kawhi Leonard. I'm a huge Kawhi Leonard fan. For him not even being on my team had nothing to do with my team ever. Like, he's never played for the Bulls. Anything to do with the Bulls. But I like Kawhi, and I've loved Kawhi, and I feel like just what he's done with the Spurs and the Raptors and then the Clippers has had a great career. I'm kind of interested to see who you have at 3, at 2, and 1. I know 2 of the players, but I'm going to see who you have at another player that might be on this. My number 4 player is Giannis Antetokounmpo. And I do not know if you have him on your list. You don't have to say. But Giannis Antetokounmpo this year is averaging 28.2 points per game, 11.4 rebounds, and 5.4 assists. That's incredible. And those 5 assists are huge for kind of a guy that's considered more of a small forward, power forward, less of a guard, obviously, because how big Giannis is. But Giannis Antetokounmpo has been great for so many years. He's a back-to-back league MVP. Like, he has to be in your top 5. If he's a back-to-back, I see you smiling, league MVP. He's also won, I believe it's 2, you could correct me if I'm wrong, 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards. I know he won last year.
I think so.
So 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards. I know it's definitely 1. The Bucks are 3rd in the West, East at 16-12. They're not having as good as a year as people have thought. I think the East is a little more top-heavy than people thought. But Giannis has been great in the regular season and most of the playoffs. The problem with Giannis, Jared, and I know you're going to talk about this, and I know people talk about his lack of success in the deeper rounds in the playoffs. Bounced early to Miami last year. Lost to Toronto in the conference finals 2 years ago. Like, he hasn't had that finals run. And I feel like if he won a championship or even been to a finals, I feel like people would view him differently. But also it's kind of similar to Luka. Like, I feel like his team isn't as good as some of the other teams. I know that's not an excuse, but I think Chris Middleton's a great player. But I don't think Chris Middleton's like Anthony Davis, like LeBron. Like, I feel like that's just such a different type of team. And now you look at the Nets and Sixers, who are both better rosters than the Bucks in the East. I really do. Definitely the Nets. Well, definitely maybe not full roster, but having Harden, Kyrie, and Durant is much better roster than the Bucks. But I do think that Giannis at this point has been incredible. Jared, did he win 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards?
No, I think he only won one.
Okay. He's won one Defensive Player of the Year award. He's also back-to-back finals in the finals, league MVP, which is incredible. He's not going to win it for a third year, but his stats are great. If he won it this year, it'd be incredible, but he's not gonna. Just how the league works. But Giannis is my fourth best player. Stats are off the charts, not just this year, over the years. Two-time MVP. He needs to get to that finals or win more playoff games for maybe you to have him in your top five. I don't know if you do or other people, but man, Giannis Antetokounmpo has been one of the best young players, and he's so fun to watch. He does not shoot the ball well from the outside as much as we would like him to, but man, those stats are eye popping. Yeah, he's my fourth best player in the NBA.
All right. My only thing with Giannis is, like you said, his stats, like especially last year's MVP years, they pop off the charts with the points and the rebounds. But like my thing is, I do not have him on this list. Unfortunately, I do not. Um, yeah, like you said, it's mostly because of his. I think he had the best team in the East last year, and they lost to the Heat. Like, obviously, yes, I do believe the Nets have a better roster. Other than that, though, I think Bucks are right there. They have Chris Middleton. He's playing really good this year, shooting the ball very well, assisting. He's doing really well. And then Drew Holiday. I do think Drew Holiday is a little overhyped when they got him. Everyone thought like, oh, he's going to carry him, like get Giannis to the finals. He's not that good of a player. He's a really good defensive guard, but I do believe the Bucks are a very good team. I remember I made a bet with one of my friends that Giannis is not going to win a finals as long as LeBron's in the league, and I'm going to stick by that. He's a very raw, not, he is raw. He's a raw player, this freak of nature, like the Greek freak, but I just don't have him above anyone in my list, and I'm probably going to stick with that.
Quick question: do you think Philly and Boston roster are better than Milwaukee's roster? Roster, not how
Yeah,
they.
I think they're pretty comparable. I think the Bucks did a good job of like building around Giannis. Um, Sixers, they do have Joel Embiid, who possibly we were talking might win MVP this year. And the Celtics, yeah, I think they're comparable. Maybe they might be a little better because they have more all around players, and Bucks are just kind of like building around Giannis and getting them role players kind of. But I think they're pretty comparable.
Okay. I get why people don't have Giannis in their top five or as high as I think if he had a finals and if he won a championship or made it to the finals, I think it would even be higher on my list. I just think he's such an incredible player. I do the knock on him if he loses in the playoffs again, it's gonna be the same thing again.
Yeah. If this was a regular season top five, yeah, sure, he's on there. But
that's why I have some other players on my list and ahead. That's why.
yeah.
But yeah, Giannis is my fourth best player in the NBA. JR, who is your third? I think I can guess who your third is, but who's your third?
You're gonna be pretty. I don't know if you're gonna be surprised, but I'm going Steph Curry, number three.
Wait! Before you did not guess that, I was
Yeah,
not thinking Steph Curry. I was thinking someone else, but I guess you're not gonna have him on your list.
yeah, probably not. Yeah, I was told you I was gonna be pretty humble with this one. He's averaging 30 points a game, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. I mean, they're seventh in the West at 16 and 13. However, you do have to take into account his team obviously is not really that good. They're not really well. They have James Wiseman, a young talent, but he's young. He's a little raw. I like Draymond Green a lot. I know you don't like him, but yes, he's not going to be getting you 15 points a game. He's just like he's a role player. He's a team player, good leader. But I mean, he's shooting 49% field goal percentage and 42 from three, and that I thought his percentage was going to drop a lot this year. I thought he couldn't create his own shot as much when all the attention was kind of on him. And he's been showing me he's the best shooter of all time. I finally starting to appreciate him more, even though I still have my flaws with him. Pete knows I kind of don't like him. Be a bad history. But I'm starting to respect him a lot, and he's definitely the best point guard in the league right now, I think, and best shooter of all time. And he shows that he could win, and that's why I like someone that could win, and he's been doing it in the playoffs. I know he had KD that one one run, but before that, I mean, and especially if Clay comes back, they could definitely be top 5, top 14 in the West. So Steph Curry is my third best player.
Guys, this is a breakthrough. If you don't, I've known JR for a very long time, over 15, 16 years. He doesn't like Steph Curry. So this takes guts for you to say Steph Curry is your best player. I do not have Steph Curry in my top 5. I do not.
Really?
Well, yeah, I do not. But I think Steph Curry is the greatest shooter of all time. If you consider Luka Doncic to be a point guard, I don't know if you do. Then I think him and Curry are the two best guards in the league. I don't know. The positions are weird in the NBA. They used to be so much easier to determine. Now, like who's a small forward, who's a power forward, because everybody plays different positions. But man, Steph Curry, one of the best shooters of all time. I don't think he's a top 5 NBA player right now. I really don't. I think he's having an incredible year. Definitely not before this year, but this year is kind of like I think he's 6th for me, 6 or 7. Him and Harden are kind of. Oh, and Anthony Davis is tinkling out there. Man, there's so many good NBA players. I'm just thinking about guys that like could be my top 5. I'm like, he's great. He's great. The guys, this list was not easy to make, but I get where you're coming. Steph Curry did not see that coming because you do not like him. You do not like Steph.
I do not like him.
Also, Draymond Green is not a good NBA player.
No, yes, he is a good NBA player.
Not a good NBA. Yeah. No, he's not a good NBA player.
He's a leader. He's a defensive leader. He does everything on the court. He does everything on the court. That he's a hustle player, just like a solid player to have on your team.
It's also because he's the most annoying human being to look at. And
what's the difference between him and Patrick Beverley?
Yeah, I don't think Patrick Beverley's a great NBA player. I think
I never said he was a great NBA player. I think he's a really good player.
Okay, is he a Hall of Famer, Draymond Green?
I don't know.
Don't give me. I don't know. He's not. He has the rings, but like
he's probably not. He's probably not a Hall of Famer.
Hey,
no.
Okay. My third best NBA player is Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is a Hall of Famer and will be a Hall of Famer and is currently going to be a Hall of Famer. He plays for the Brooklyn Nets. He's averaging 29 points per game, 7.3 rebounds, and 5.3 assists. I feel like that's one of his best stat lines he's had as an all-around NBA player. We know Kevin Durant is one of the best scorers of all time. That's why I thought when I heard the Knicks didn't offer him a max contract when he tore his Achilles, like that was the stupidest thing. Because
you never know that. Yeah, I know.
Because Kevin Durant always can score. He's not really athletic. He's super athletic.
Yeah.
That's not what he uses. Like he can score in a wheelchair. Like that's just what he is. It's different when you think about when rest in peace Kobe Bryant. But when Kobe Bryant tore his Achilles, he was towards the end of his career. He was also not as good of a shooter as Kevin Durant. He was a great scorer. But I just feel like he was older and like not in his prime as much as he was when he tore his Achilles. So people compared that way too much. And then when they compared to DeMarcus Cousins is based off dunking. Like that's what he was.
Yeah.
He's not a shooter. He's not a scorer. He's based off finishing at the rim and defending and rebounding. So once he tore his Achilles, that was going to hurt. But Kevin Durant can score, and he always can score. Like that was never a problem. He's the third best player in the NBA. Like I think he's having an incredible year. The problem is with Kevin Durant is his injuries. I think he needs to stay on the court he's been out a couple times. Like against the Suns with his hamstring. I get it. They're resting him. He's been a little banged up because of coming back from Achilles. And there's a bigger angle than beating the Suns on Tuesday night or whatever day it was. But Kevin Durant is probably the best scorer in the NBA still. Him or James Harden. I think just watching him play, he can get 25 so easily. Like I feel like it just doesn't take any effort. You watch Bradley Beal, Zach LaVine, who are all great scorers, James Harden. They take effort. When you watch Kevin Durant, he just dribbles, rises up over his defender, and makes I think it's the simplest thing ever. And if I want somebody to take a last shot for me, it's gonna be Kevin Durant. I really want to say that. I've actually been really impressed with him. Never been a huge Kevin Durant fan. I know you love him. He was on the Suns. Then he went to the Warriors, became the villain of the NBA. NBA needs a villain, so that's perfect. Won a couple of rings with Golden State. Then comes to Brooklyn after not getting a max contract by the Knicks. So the Knicks are the stupidest franchise ever. Even though having a good year, I would have offered a Kevin Durant max contract if I was the Bulls. Obviously, he was not interested in coming to Chicago. But if somebody was like, oh, Kevin Durant's like, I want to go to the Bulls, I'd be like, okay, here we go. Like, take all the money you need. But I think he has 2 championships. But I think he can get higher on this list, JR, if he wins a championship this year. Because I feel like this is his team. I know, look, you got Harden, you got Kyrie. That is great. But if he goes and beats the Lakers or the Clippers, especially the Lakers, I didn't think the Lakers would go to the finals this year. I might be a little stubborn on that. But if he beats the Lakers in the finals, like if he beats LeBron and Anthony Davis in the finals, like that's just a huge feat for him not finally beating, but kind of like beating LeBron when it's his team. We all know the Warriors were Steph Curry's team. Even though you could have said Kevin Durant was the best player on that team, it was Steph Curry's team because they built around him and he got Durant. This is Durant's team, not Harden's. It's definitely not Kyrie. It is Kevin Durant's team. So that's why he's my third best player in the NBA.
I agree with that. I like you said, he could get higher on this list if he does win the finals this year. I debate with that. I think he could get higher on the all-time list if he wins the finals this year.
I think he can get to number 2 if he wins.
I have him at number 2. So,
for my opinion, I think he can get to number. He's not going to get to number 1 unless like he goes on a streak of winning a ton.
Yeah.
By the time that happens, the guy who's number 1 is most likely going to be out of the league.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I think he can get to 2. I think he's 2 or 3 right now, but I have him at 3. I knew you have him at 2. Question. I know you don't have Anthony Davis on your list. I don't either because I'm assuming I know the 2 players you have left and you know the 2 players I have left. I don't have Anthony Davis on the list. You don't. Why do you not have Anthony Davis on your list?
All right. So as you know, like I picked him to win MVP this year.
Yeah.
I picked him to win Defensive Player of the Year this year. Anthony Davis, after watching him this year, I just don't see the same Anthony Davis. Like he's barely even getting rebounds some games. He gets I feel like he's just walking up and down the court. I mean, I get he's facing injury. Now he's probably going to be out for a little bit, but it's not the same Anthony Davis that I'm used to watching. Not the one who was hitting game winners in the playoffs. I just don't see it this year. He just doesn't have, maybe he's tired from that playoff run last year and it's wearing on his body, but I don't know. I'm just not really seeing it from Anthony Davis. Nothing that really excites me out of him this year. So.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was looking at his stats. He's averaging the least amount of rebounds he has since his rookie year.
Yeah.
And the least amount of points since his rookie year. This
Yeah.
is his second worst year since his rookie year, which is understandable because your rookie year you only averaged 13 points a game and 8 rebounds. And this year he's only averaging 8.4 rebounds, which is a ton. But it's his lowest mark since his rookie year, lowest scoring mark since his rookie year. He just hasn't been that player that I thought. And I didn't think he was going MVP, but I thought he was going to be in the discussion.
At least first team, possibly. Yeah.
Not first. This year, no, not a shot.
Oh, wait, no, I'm saying
I knew
beginning of the year.
Yeah. And then also him just not being I feel like this is a chance for him to take over the team. I know
I agree.
LeBron, but let some load off LeBron a little. He's getting up the pace. Sooner or later, it's going to break down.
LeBron's averaging more minutes a game than he did last year.
Yeah, but I think Anthony Davis has been injured. Injuries are killing this guy's career. And I also think that he's just not as assertive. Be more aggressive. You got to get more rebounds. This is your team. LeBron needs you. I know every great player needs another great player. LeBron, they don't have Anthony Davis there. Down the stretch, or Anthony Davis, they're not winning the finals.
Yeah, and I agree. And my thing with Anthony Davis, when they joined together, LeBron and AD and on the Lakers, I'm like, this could possibly might be LeBron's best teammate because D Wade was really good, but he was kind of a little older. I mean, the chemistry they had, you can't compare that, but just AD talent wise he's a 7-footer, shoot threes. This might be his best teammate. And when I watch him play, it's just slow motion. It's just ISO ball with him. He's not I don't know. I just didn't like watching him play this year, at least. In the playoffs, I loved watching him play. This year, though, I just didn't see it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like I'd rather take the Wayne Wade and LeBron than Anthony Davis and LeBron.
No, I agree, yeah.
Point right now, I'm with you. I thought Anthony Davis could have been LeBron's best teammate. He said, obviously, Kevin Love, Kyrie, Chris Bosh, but nobody's ever came near.
Kevin Love?
I don't know. Kevin Love was an all-star. He never came anywhere near. Obviously, Kyrie was great. They were great together. But Dwayne Wade's probably been his greatest teammate for LeBron. And I think Anthony Davis has taken a step back. At 5 on my list, I don't think he's 6. I don't think he's 7. He might not even be 8 or 9. He's a top 10 NBA player, but he's on the bottom of the 10.
Yeah.
Which is surprising because most people had him in the top of their 10 or top of their 5. So he's not having a bad year, guys. We're not hating on the guy.
I mean, he's having a bad year for AD.
True. For
He
his
just got a max contract.
exactly for AD he's having a bad year, not for like a
That's true.
league player, but for AD it's not what he expected. Now he's injured. It has nothing to do with his play, but he hurt his Achilles. Like that's an injury that you always got to watch. Like we just talked about Kevin. Okay, Jared, second best player in the NBA currently. I think I know who it is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I said it before. It's Kevin Durant on the Brooklyn Nets. He's having, like you said, 29 points a game, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 52% from the field, 43 from 3. And like you said, like this dude might retire the best scorer of all time. Maybe not the most points of all time, but just from people who watch him, just pure scorer, the scoring ability that he's got it. I remember I went to the Knicks game on Christmas Day against the Thunder because they were my favorite team, and we're watching them, and like that, people like around us like, geez, like Kevin Durant was just like scoring, like he was playing. We were beating up on the Knicks, so he didn't really play that much. Then you look at the box score, dude like dropped like 35 points, and you're like I don't remember him like shooting that much, and just like he plays with the rhythm of the game. He's so fluid, and I think his defense is getting much better. He could only score. He's not really a good defender. He's averaging like 1.4 blocks a game, almost one steal. His defense an interior defense. I feel like he could guard possibly, like he could guard Giannis, he could guard LeBron, he could guard those type of players, maybe even like centers at point if they want to play small ball. I just think, yes, I agree. He's not number one, and it's going to be hard for him to get that number one recognition because he's wanted it since like high school. I think that was his thing. I'm always number 2, even in the draft. But yeah, I could see. Yeah, I feel like he might be too old to be the crown the king of the league when LeBron retires, because they were kind of close in age. But he's just a really solid player. He's number 2. I think he'll end up being the best scorer of all time, possibly. So I'm going Kevin Durant.
I agreed with everything until you said the last thing. You said could be the greatest scorer of all time. Don't want to get into that conversation. I think you know who I think the greatest scorer of all time is.
He couldn't hit the 3 ball, Pete.
I also think Kobe Bryant is a better scorer than Kevin Durant. So
Kobe Bryant's a more volume scorer, though. I agree with that. I think the top 3, like you said, is probably Kevin Durant, Kobe, and then you could put MJ or LeBron in there.
Oh, you're suck. You know what? Can't use that language on YouTube, but man, no. MJ's 1, Kobe's 2, and Kawhi. Kevin Durant's 3.
Kawhi.
But you also got to forget like Kareem and like Karl Malone, who are like all-time scorers. Just in different ways. But that's why these debates are sometimes pointless.
Yeah, like there's probably people like you're not even naming Kareem. Meanwhile, he's probably definitely up there. Like it's just like we're talking about like all around scoring.
Yeah, like Kareem was different, but like I feel like sometimes we talk about the top 5 greatest players of all time or who the greatest player of all time. Some of it's pointless because different eras and like different players. Like I just like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, 6-time MVP and a 6-time champion.
Or even Wilt, who averaged like 50 points a game one season. You know, it's like hard.
It's like okay, like you know what? Then you just like the debate. Yeah. Some of these debates they're meant for talk shows. Like that's what they're meant for. This is what it is. My number 2 greatest player, current NBA player right now is Kawhi Leonard. And Kawhi Leonard's averaging 26.7 points per game, 5.9 rebounds, and 5 assists. He was so close to being number 3. I thought about it for about 20 minutes, him or KD. I really did. I really debated it. I went Kawhi, maybe just because I like him a little more, which is not the best reason. But you know what? It's my list, my top 5 players. He's won 2 Finals MVP, which are more important than regular season MVPs. You can agree with that. And then 2 championships, one with the Spurs and one with the Raptors. And what he did with that Raptors team, yes, they had a good team, Kyle Lowry and Siakam, but you can see what kind of they are now. Like Siakam's taking a step back. Kyle Lowry's getting up there in age.
Last year they were good.
Yeah, last year they were better than I thought, but then this year they've kind of like they've asked Siakam to do way more than he's supposed to. Like he's not as good as we thought. I love Siakam. I think he's a good NBA player. But Kawhi Leonard was incredible in that playoff run. Absolutely incredible. He's also the best defender on my list. I know Giannis has been a great defender. I still think Kawhi Leonard is the best on-ball defender in the NBA. He's the best on-ball defender in the NBA, better than LeBron, KD, Giannis, Luka, definitely Steph Curry, Harden, all the people that you want to say that all could be on this list. He's the best defender here. So that takes him a notch ahead. I think he's also a great scorer. He's averaging nearly 27 points per game. When has Kawhi Leonard ever averaged that many points in the beginning of his career? I never thought he could get to that level, but now he is. One thing what really hurt him is that playoff loss last year to Denver in the bubble. That conference semis loss. They had to get to the conference finals. I feel like that was been a huge step for the Clippers team. Also, PG was not good in the playoffs. He's having a really good year this year. They're third in the West, which is good. I predict them to finish. So I did have them finishing third in the West. The Clippers had the Lakers 2 and Denver 1. So come on, Denver, let's get going here. But yeah, I think he's been great in his career. He's bounced around a couple times. That Spurs team, Jared, he won Finals MVP when they beat LeBron in the finals over Manu, Tony, and Big Timmy T. Yeah, that was a great, and he was young. That was a young Kawhi. That wasn't Kawhi we see now. Obviously, the Spurs thing kind of faltered. It'll be really interesting to see if he ever stayed with the Spurs and what that team could have been. Because the Spurs are good right now. Nobody on that team. Greg Popovich is the best coach.
DeMar and LaMarcus.
They're like 17 and 11 in the West.
Yeah, that's true. DeJounte Murray is actually playing really, really
He's
well.
on my fantasy team. I love DeJounte.
So is he, yeah.
So Spurs, Popovich is good with Coach of the Year. I think he should.
Yeah.
They're not going to win the championship because that's just not how the NBA works. Their roster is not good.
Or you could say the guy on the Jazz. Quinn Snyder.
Yeah, forgot. Okay, the Jazz are having an incredible year. They do remind me of that Hawks team. Remember a couple years ago when the Hawks were the worst?
Yeah, Mike Budenholzer.
By LeBron in the conference finals. I feel like the Jazz could be a conference finals, conference semis bounce. But props to the Jazz for not having a superstar, having really good all-stars in Donovan Mitchell and Gobert. That team's been great. They built around that team really well, with shooters and all that stuff. But yeah, Kawhi Leonard on the Raptors was incredible. I remember watching that playoff run when that shot against that dunk against Giannis, in game.
The left hand.
I was at your house. That was incredible. That was incredible. The shot against the Sixers in the round before was insane. And then how he played so well in the finals against the Warriors. I know Kevin Durant got injured and then Klay Thompson got injured, but he played
everyone got injured.
That playoff run by Kawhi Leonard might have been one of the greatest playoff runs I personally seen. Yes, Michael Jordan's had great playoff runs. Kobe, Kareem, all those guys, but obviously I wasn't
LeBron.
I'm shocked. I wasn't alive in the 90s or the 80s, but you know what I'm talking about. One of the greatest playoff runs I've ever seen. I still can't get over that Milwaukee dunk. That was incredible. So he's been great in his career. What has took him over Kevin Durant is the defense. I do think Kevin Durant's played better defense as of late, but I think in his career, Kawhi Leonard has been a top defender in the league, and now he's officially a great scorer. So Kawhi Leonard is my second best player. You know how I feel about Kawhi Leonard. I love him. Go win a championship this year. If he wins a championship this year, then you're going to be like, okay, this dude has 3 championships, and he'll probably have 3 finals MVPs on 3 different teams, which would be incredible. So,
but do you think Kawhi's defense makes him that much over Kevin Durant's? I think Kevin Durant's scoring is better than Kawhi's defense.
I do think that was a factor earlier in his career, but Kawhi Leonard's almost as good of a scorer as Kevin Durant, points per game wise. I think Kevin Durant's a better scorer than him, but I think Kawhi Leonard has turned into such a great scorer that it just makes him such a better player. He used to only average at 2022. You're like, oh, he's a really good player, right? But he can play defense, but now he can score. He's one of the best scorers in the NBA. So I feel like that has taken him the next step in my list.
Yeah, I just don't think – that's a different debate. But I do think he's up there in the top 5. But I just got to – he's got to beat LeBron. He beat LeBron when he was on the Spurs, like you said. But he had a good team. It was just – obviously, he won Finals MVP. He played very well, I agree. But it was just he was under the radar and he kind of exploded. But that finals run, I agree. That was one of the best finals runs. He leaves, goes to the Toronto Raptors, never won a finals. Bam, won a finals. That was pretty cool. But I feel like the team the Warriors just broke down in the finals. It was just you kind of knew it was going to happen once Klay towards ACL, and it was just oh geez. Kevin Durant comes back in and ruptures his Achilles. It was a mess. So I want to see what it.
I agree on that one. And I also wish he stayed in Toronto. I feel like the Clippers. I don't like him as much as I used to.
Nah, I think he just went to Toronto, won a chip, left. Like I think that's fine.
I do think the Clippers are better this year than they were last year. I know their record is still really good. The West is top records are insane. Like get it, Western.
Yeah.
If I was an NBA player, right, and I'm thinking this too, don't go me to the Western Conference. I would never go to the Western Conference. I'm thinking of it right now. Look at the Eastern Conference, Jared. The 4 seeds, the Pacers. They're 500.
Well,
They're 500.
I agree, but it's also like everyone was. It's also for you, like I know what you mean. It's easier to make the finals necessarily, but like everyone was hating. I know I'm bringing back LeBron. Everyone's hating on LeBron. You're in the East. Team, so he goes to the West, and everyone starts going to the East. James Harden, East. Kevin Durant, East. It was just like.
I do agree. I think that's a knock on LeBron's career accolade is that the Eastern Conference was awful when he was on. That is watered down. I know, like if I was a player, I wouldn't really want to care what the media thinks about me. Like, oh, I play that conference. I just want to win games. I don't really care. So, but yeah, I get what you're saying. But the Eastern Conference is so top heavy. After
I
the
agree.
Sixers and Bucks, like you got the Bulls are a game back with the 5 seed. And the 8 seed.
Like you said, like Pacers, good team, never gonna do anything in the playoffs.
Yeah,
Once you get to like Raptors, good team, not gonna do it. They're not even that good of a team this year, but like you know what I mean. Like once you get, Heat or, but they can make a run in the playoffs. I don't know, something clicks, but like it's like the top 4 teams in the East are like the ones that are like, okay, who's gonna make the finals out of those 4? You know?
Well, yeah, when the Knicks are a 6 seed.
Yeah,
I'm a Bulls fan. No, I'm 9 seed right now. I want to be in the playoffs. I'm sick of not being in the playoffs.
No, yeah.
I don't care what our record is. I'm just saying the Bulls are not winning the championship this year. Just putting it out there. The Bulls are having a fun year. Zach LaVine's amazing. The Bulls are not winning a championship. Like the Bulls win 2 games in the playoffs.
And if they do, that is insane.
The Bulls win 2 games, not 2 series, 2 games in the playoffs.
You'll be happy.
I'm like, okay, we lost the 6 to a 7, 2 or 1 seed. I'm like, okay. But I'm not gonna be. I'm low expectations. Okay, JR, let's start wrapping this up. But who's your number 1 player in the NBA? If we don't have the same one, then something happened.
Yeah. So my number 1, obviously Nikola Jokic. No, I'm just kidding. LeBron James, best player in the league right now, averaging 25, 8, and 8. Is 22 and 7, which is second in the West behind the Jazz for some reason. I don't know how they're doing that well. But yeah, I mean, AD's been struggling a lot with injury this year, and we also talked about he has been looking like AD. So I think LeBron's really taking a big step. He's averaging more minutes than last year. I thought he'd be resting a lot this year. He's actually playing like almost basically every game. And I don't know, I just think LeBron, it's not even all about the stats. It's just about the eye test. He goes to a team, they dramatically get better. Like, it's not even funny. That he makes every player on his team that much better. And he's always going to be competing for finals, no matter if you put him on the Bulls, if you put him on the Pistons, he's going to be competing for finals. So he's the best. There's literally not much I need to say. He's the best player in the league.
Look, I've had my hatred of LeBron, but he's the best player in the NBA. Look, he's average. I'll give you the stats. I know Jared didn't, but 25.7 points per game, 8.2 rebounds, and 7.9 assists. Those are great stats. The scoring is not as high as the couple other guys we had on this list, but that's not LeBron's statue. Only time they've really struggled recently was 2 years ago when the Lakers, and then he got injured, and they didn't make the playoffs and all that fun stuff. That team wasn't great, even though Brandon Ingram was good. But that was a little different. Yeah, but LeBron, every team he goes to, he elevates the team. He makes them a finals contender, and I 100% agree with that. I also think LeBron James has been incredible. One thing I want to worry about is the amount of minutes he's playing.
Yeah, I know.
It's worrisome. I get it. Look, it's only a 72-game season, right? So you're going to lose 10 games. Helps. But because of COVID, and screw COVID, they had the bubble, and then that pushed the season towards closer to – it pushed it back. He's only had like 2 months of break off after making a finals run. So he's played more games than every other player in the NBA last year. And then now the season starts quicker, and he's older. That's going to be a problem. He's not really an injury guy. I'm not saying he's going to get injured. I do want him to get injured, but I'm saying that could be a factor. Never happened before, but he could break down. Like it could be.
I
If you're the Lakers, again, we got to win games. We have to win games. The problem is you got to watch his minutes. Now what sucks is Anthony Davis not playing.
Mhm.
And when Anthony Davis is not playing for 2 to 4 weeks, you don't have LeBron on the court. They're not winning games. Like they're not. That team is not going to win games. Like that's just how it is. You take every star off a team, mostly they're not going to win games. Like Giannis off the Bucks, they're not going to win games. Doncic off the Mavericks, they're not going to win games. So, but those guys can play. Giannis and Doncic can play minutes because they're young and they want to win games. I'm not saying LeBron doesn't, but I think the amount of minutes he's playing is scary. And I think that you have to monitor that. I'm not saying it's a problem right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if he takes a game off or two. Probably not now because of Anthony Davis. So it's just kind of like a weird thing for.
I think what they were trying to do is I think they were trying to, I don't know, maybe get a like high seed, get a lead, and start resting them towards the end of the season. I think they'll still do that, start resting them towards the end of the season before the playoffs. But I agree. Did not think he was going to be playing these type of minutes, especially with 2 months off. And he's, 34, 35 years old? Jeez.
I also think people have talked about this is the best LeBron ever. I don't agree with that.
No.
I think the Heat LeBron was the best.
He honestly, but if watching, even though I think it might have been the Cavs LeBron.
Which one? The first Cavs LeBron?
Second Cavs when he beat the Warriors.
I still think
when he lost, bro. He was second in votes for NBA Finals MVP. It was crazy.
I still think it's the Heat because maybe it's just because it was such a villain and how the NBA.
He was just not raw. He was just an athletic specimen.
I just feel like that. I remember watching me being a Bulls fan. Him like our Bulls teams were really good the years he was on the Heat and losing in the conference semis and then the conference finals to the Heat. That was painful just because of LeBron beating us. But I just think there was something about him, and that also could have been because he was the villain in that. So everybody was like,
yeah.
So good. He was more athletic back then, obviously. He can shoot the ball better now. I do believe because I think he's learned how to shoot the ball. The worst LeBron is the first.
He's learned how to shoot the ball.
Like, be more consistent shooting. You know what
I know what you mean.
The worst LeBron is the Cavs LeBron. Like, that was the worst LeBron. When I say worst, he was still great. Like, that's not saying he was bad on the Cavs, obviously. Mm-hmm. But I think, in my opinion, it goes Heat, Cavs, first Cavs.
I think like it depends on what you're talking about. Scoring, maybe the Heat or maybe even the young Cavs, LeBron scoring wise. I feel like the Lakers, it's like different stages. Like Lakers, LeBron's he's like a wiser, he's gonna facilitator, he's more like a point guard, like a wiser, a more IQ, get his guys together, like that type. He's not gonna he's still dunking like crazy, but he's not as athletic as he used to be. Exactly.
I also think Heat LeBron was super desperate. Like super desperate at the point where yes, he's won 4 championships now, and he can kind of not relax, but he's won championships.
Oh, you mean like he was hungry, desperate,
He's super hungry. I'm not saying he doesn't want to win, but going to the Heat era, he's never won a championship. Right?
And then he lost to the Mavs, and then the Thunder stood no chance that series.
Yeah, he lost to the Mavericks to a team that they should have beaten.
Yeah.
And he did not play well in that finals. He did not. He averaged 14 points per game in that finals. It was bad. So they lost to a Mavericks team. Yes, Dirk Nowitzki, Hall of Famer. After that, you're washed Jason Kidd, Tyson Chandler, good defender, and Sean Marion, who has the weirdest shooting form in the NBA history. So
that was a solid team. Honestly, I do agree they should have won.
He were better, and they had. Remember the press conference when it was on the stage of Bosh and Wade? Not one. Not 2.
Okay, that was a joke.
No, but you know what I mean? He put pressure on himself.
Yeah.
In the media, and then they lost to a team that they should have beaten. I know the Mavericks were a good team, not saying they were a bad team, but then he didn't really show up in the finals. So the conversation was oh my God, is he not great anymore? And then he won 2 in a row, obviously against a Thunder team that stood no chance. Then the Spurs team that was good, and then the Spurs beat him, obviously. But I think LeBron was a villain. He was desperate. He needed to win. So that's why I see him as the greatest LeBron ever, which is a stupid conversation, but he is.
No, I agree. Definitely.
Okay. Guys, this has been a long video, but I'm sorry it's been a little long. We had a great conversation. We wanted to do something that was a little different than we usually do. But look forward to this video. Also look forward to some NFL draft coverage, some NFL free agency coverage, some NBA playoff coverage, eventually some MLB predictions. And also look for the Apple Podcast. This will also be on Apple Podcasts. Like every YouTube video is always on Apple Podcasts. So if you prefer listening in your car, on your radio, on Apple Podcasts, go check that out. Link is in the description. And we'll also be just dropping some exclusive stuff on Apple Podcasts that just consists of, I don't know, free agency draft stuff. When Deshaun Watson gets traded, we'll definitely have a YouTube video about that. Jerry, anything you got to say before we sign out?
No, yeah, please. And after watching this, comment your top five, and we want to see your top fives. Like, we want to see who you guys think. Do you agree with us, or are we missing someone? You know, we want to see what you guys think, and because your opinion definitely matters. So please,
sure you drop your top five, and do you agree or disagree with us? Like and comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel, guys. Until next time, this is the Talking Sports Podcast with Peter DiBiasi and John Rocco Trumpbour. Thank you.